Hi, my name's Nikki, and this is my story of God's amazing grace. Back in 1996, I caught a virus, and I coughed. I went from a perfectly normal voice to absolutely no voice in one cough. So we've let it go for a while, thinking it was laryngitis, just overstrained voice. A couple months go by, we go back to the doctors. Oh, well, you just have seasonal allergies. Here, let's try this. A couple more months go by, and it's still not any better. Finally, about 8 months in, they finally send me to a specialist who starts doing some diagnostics, and it turns out I had dislocated my vocal cord. And because it had been dislocated for so long, it had curled up on itself and died. So the first procedure they wanted to try was to putting it back in place using a Teflon injection. So this is 96, now it's November, coming up on Thanksgiving. And when I originally dislocated it, it was January, the first week of January. So it's 11 months before we try any procedure. They take me in, they do the injections. Because we're dealing with the airways, they keep you in the hospital overnight. Well, not 2 hours after surgery, I coughed and it was back out of place. So I go home with no voice and a sore throat this time. They decide that in 2 weeks, they're going to actually open up my throat like a book and put in a prosthetic. And now that's a very strange surgery to go through because they wake you up they put you in and out of consciousness while they're doing this so they can adjust your voice and adjust the prosthetic. So Christmas of 96, I get my prosthetic. And this is cutting edge back then. They really didn't know where to go with it after that. And yeah, I had a voice. It was very hard to hear. I sounded like I was always sick. And it really makes you self-conscious. You start isolating yourself because you can't be heard over the background noise. If I was lucky, it was a whisper most days. So you get tired of people asking, hey, you got a cold? Are you sick? And they giving you these funny looks. And so from 96 to 2000, we just lived with it. That was the best we were gonna get. And I ended up with a really bad sore throat in 2000. Ended up back at the doctor's, and they have to take out my tonsils. Here's something you don't think about when they put something fixed down your airway, is now you have a smaller airway, and they can't intubate you correctly. So I had my tonsils taken out with basically an epidural type of situation. I can remember everything in the operating room, and that kind of freaked out the doctor afterwards. But because of that, I ended up meeting an amazing specialist who was basically focused on vocal cords and problems with vocal cords. So in a matter of 4 years, they had come so far that he started doing some reconstructive surgery in my throat, and knowing that we can't do a whole lot with the prosthesis, decided to work around it. So he started with collagen injections because one of the things with paralysis and dead tissue is you're going to get atrophy. And so what makes your voice actually work is the vibration of your vocal cords opening and closing. And at this point, I only had one vocal cord that opened and closed. And because of the atrophy, they weren't closing. So we started doing collagen injections, and all of a sudden didn't have to scream to be heard. I could be heard, didn't have a loud voice, but I could be heard again. And so that was a huge change. And we started doing this every 6 months since 2000. So every 6 months I go under general anesthesia and have injections done in the vocal cords to fill the vocal cords. And with the prosthesis, that was great, but you get tired of that. And I mean, over the years, I've had a lot of words spoken over me. And one of the ones is the hardest to receive was from my parents. And it was that the prosthesis was going to pop out and God was going to heal your vocal cords. Well, even though we've been involved in ministry for so many years and we've done a lot of stuff, that is the hardest word to receive, because you know your parents love you and they want what's best for you. So in about 2007, I decided to be a guinea pig and try a new injectable. And yeah, that wasn't very good. So I decided to take a break from treatment. And I took 5 years off, in which by the end of 5 years, I absolutely had no voice again. Well, it turns out the doctor in Seattle is who trained my doctor in the Bay Area. So that is a huge God move. And he started working on it, and the best they could come up with, being one of the top doctors in the country of the specialty area, is we could either fix the voice or we could fix the airway. There was not going to be a way that we could fix both. So did I want to breathe better or did I want to talk better? How do you choose? How do you choose? You really can't. And the doctors are always going to lean to you breathing better, which if we do that surgery, 90% chance I was going to lose all voice. If we go with better voice, yeah, 25% chance of better voice, but more like a 75% chance of worse breathing. So at that time, we prayed and prayed over it. And we knew God was getting ready to move us again. And we asked him for a word of where we were going because we knew it was one of two areas. And we walked into my doctor's office later, about 2 weeks after that, and he's not knowing that we're planning on moving anywhere. And he goes, I need you to go to Cleveland. There's a doctor there I need you to see. So Cleveland happened to be one of the two places we knew we were going to. So now we're in Cleveland. We've been here about 3 years. And my first doctor, they always want to jump in and do this surgery and that surgery. And my thing is, let's put on the brakes. You can do a collagen injection that lets you see what's been done. Yeah, I know you've read the 4-inch thick medical record. They don't really do that. You've read the highlights of that record, but you don't know what's actually physically in there. And so the first thing I always let them do is a collagen injection to see what's actually there, because it's not what they're expecting. He goes in and does a collagen injection, and he's like, wow, you're right, it's not what I was expecting. But over the years, because of the Teflon, now they know Teflon's a problem in the body, I had grown basically a mass down the prosthesis side because my body was rejecting the Teflon. And what Teflon does is go in like roots of a tree and spreads. It doesn't stay in one place. So there's really no way for them to get it out. And his idea was to go in and just shave the mass, which would open up the airway. So we scheduled this surgery, and about 4 weeks before that, I'm at an immerse. And Will gives a word about somebody's throat. And originally it was a throat cancer, and I told God, that's not me. I don't have cancer. And he goes, nope, it's not cancer, I'm wrong. You just have a long-term throat issue. And yeah, that was me. And so we went up and prayed, and they prayed that the word was I was going to be healed. And so that was really exciting because I have surgery coming up in 4 weeks. And so we were hoping this would be the one where everything's going to be so different. Well, during surgery, as they're shaving down the mass, my prosthetic popped out. I knew it was broken. The doctors never believed it was broken. I know the day I broke it because I called them and told them I broke it, coughing again. And so my quick little in and out ended up being a hospital stay because it was much more in depth than they expected. And they didn't know where the healing was going to go. They didn't expect the vocal cord to stay in place because now I don't have a prosthetic holding it in place. And you have to understand, this is now 2018, and that prosthetic's been in there since 96, almost to the day. It was 1 month short of when I got it put in. So we give it 6 months, and I go in, and they see some improvement. They're not sure what's really going on, but it's still in place. So that doctor who did the surgery sends me to the head of the department. It didn't work. So he got kind of frustrated and sent me off to another doctor who I absolutely adore. And we went back to collagen injections just to see if the tissue that was there could hold the collagen, because they didn't really know what was going to be there after the prosthesis the vocal cord had healed after the prosthesis. How is it staying in place? Is it really in place? And so we'd go in, and it's still kind of raw because this is about a little over a year after the major surgery. And he gently does some injections, and well, it's still holding. And after the injections, it takes about 4 to 6 weeks for my voice to level out, and it sounds really good. And this September, here in 2020, I went back for my 6-month checkup, and I walk in, and they stick me in the room with all this fun COVID stuff going on. And a voice specialist comes in, the physical therapist. She goes, "You know what? I really want to scope you and take a look. I haven't seen you yet. You've seen everybody else on the floor. In fact, you've even seen my boss. But you've got such a neat case. I want to see you." And so she scopes me, and we go through a little routine. You have these words and sounds you make. And she starts freaking out. My husband's eyes are huge. I can't see anything on the camera or the screen behind me, but I'm watching everybody's reaction around me. And all of a sudden, she pulls the camera out and says, "I'll be right back." And so now I'm really anxious. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And my husband's just got a big old grin on his face. And so all of a sudden, we've got, in this tiny little exam room, all of a sudden there's now another 6 or 8 people in this room. And they're all watching this video in amazement, because the dead vocal cord is still in place, and it's now vibrating, and it's trying to move. And they're all just sitting there stunned, because in all human logic, this should not have happened. This is a dead vocal cord, does not stay in place. It's now stayed in place for 2 years, and it's now vibrating, and now it's actually trying to open and close. What you need to understand is this is a vocal cord that was sitting there unused, unmoving for 20 years. And I mean, I've watched these doctors just go and get everybody on this floor because they could not believe it. It was just amazing to watch. And we decided we'd go ahead and do a little bit of a collagen tune-up again. And that's kind of like right now what we're doing. We're waiting and watching God's healing. But yeah, we'll go in probably every 6 months as we need it, and as it's rebuilding its strength, and it's rebuilding itself to give it some help with the collagen. But there's going to be a day when it's not needed anymore, and we know it's coming. And what's the most amazing part is this is all documented on video. To watch the video from 2 years ago to watching this video, the most recent one, is just amazing to see no vocal cord, to see a nice white full vocal cord that's actually vibrating. My youngest son, who's now 25, has never heard my normal voice, and I know there's going to be a day when he hears what my voice was originally. My older boys kind of remember it, but not really. So it's very strange to have it coming back. My name's Nikki, and that's my amazing God story.